Hello everyone, Eric Chappell, Civil Community Evangelist for Autodesk. And for today's webcast, I'm going to talk to you about what's up with BIM 360 and InfraWorks. Before we jump into that, I realize some of you may be new to our webcast series, so I want to welcome you here. If you're a long-time attendee, then you've seen this spiel quite a few times, but for those of you who are new, we do this twice per month. We try to stick to the first and third Wednesdays of the month. And the goal is to get you information about our civil products and their features. Oftentimes, we do this from the perspective of the product team. Today, you're going to hear from me, but we've got lots of product team folks on the line answering questions. So we're usually very well represented by our wonderful product team. It gives you a chance to ask questions and provide feedback. And the topic today, I think, is one that has generated some questions, so this is a good one for just this purpose. There's a change to the software. It's fairly significant, and the reason we're having this webcast is to get information out and, again, give you a chance to ask questions. And just generally speaking, the goal of this series is to bring you folks, the users of our products, closer to us, the ones who make the products. Our next webcast is going to be Autodesk and Esri, BIM plus GIS, and this is going to be a special treat because Wes Newman is going to be presenting this topic. He's been very involved in the partnership between Esri and Autodesk, knows a lot about it, both on the technical side and the non-technical side, and he's going to be sharing some of what he knows about that, as well as some ways that you can leverage what Autodesk does and what Esri does technology-wise. So we're really looking forward to this presentation. That'll be 2 weeks from today, Wednesday, May 16th, same time, same place. Watch for the registration information to come out in your email for one, and also at the various web locations or social media locations, the community site, civil-community.autodesk.com, which I encourage you to check every day, as well as the forums and social media channels. So Facebook, our InfraWorks channel for Facebook and Civil 3D actually, Twitter and LinkedIn as well. So that information will be coming out shortly, probably in the next few days after this webcast concludes. We want to know what you want to see in upcoming webcasts. So if you have any great ideas or something you'd really like to learn more about, please just type them in the questions panel here on your GoToWebinar interface, and we'll download a log of those questions. And when it comes time to plan out future sessions, we look at those and see what you guys are wanting to hear about. In fact, we'd much rather the topics come from you than from us, because then we're directly giving you the information you want to see. I mentioned the Civil Engineering Community Center a moment ago. Again, that's civil-community.autodesk.com. It's kind of a central hub for all things Autodesk Civil, news about our products, the forums, the gallery, tips and tricks. Every day there's a new tip and trick video. Every day there's a new featured idea or discussion board post or gallery project. There's always new stuff up here. That's why I encourage you to visit it at least daily, even more often. Some of the feeds are automatically pulled in from places like the forums and the gallery. So literally the information is updated by the minute. You can search recent posts if you're looking for something specific. Like, a few weeks ago, I did a webcast about advanced road design in InfraWorks. A lot of people were asking about that. You can go into the top of this web page and just type in advanced road design, and it'll lead you to the recording for that webinar. So definitely, like I said, bookmark and check it daily. There's always good stuff up here about what we're working on. I don't believe we're going to get into any statements regarding preview features or things that are in labs or generally what we're working on. I'll say we're not planning to, but often I say that and it ends up coming up in discussion. So please just know that anything we talk about as far as a feature we're working on and it hasn't yet been released, there's no guarantee that you'll see that feature until it actually is released. And please don't make any purchasing decisions about that feature or whatever we happen to say that we're working on. We encourage you to ask lots of questions. We've got Elliot on the line, Sarah Cunningham, who you all know very well, as product manager for InfraWorks. We've got John Sayer, who you all know very well, Seth Hall. In fact, all of the folks on the line you know well, and they're waiting and eager to answer your questions. If anything pops up that's especially interesting, or if there's a repeating theme, they're going to interrupt me, and we'll air it out right here on right through the audio. As I mentioned, we can't open the phone lines, unfortunately, on these calls. There's just too many people, and inevitably one or more phone lines are left unmuted and we get some noise, and we've tried and it just is really difficult to do. So we ask that you post your questions through the question and answer panel on the GoToWebinar interface, and we'll answer them that way. So let's jump into the presentation. What's up with BIM 360 and InfraWorks? Here are the topics I'm going to run through. What is BIM 360? Start right at the beginning, assuming there may be some people on the call who don't know much about it. And then we'll look at first opening existing models with the latest release of InfraWorks, which has with the new connection to BIM 360, some things have changed with that. And then we'll look at, if you want to use BIM 360 for collaboration, how do you set it up? Next, we'll look at using Model Builder. There are some changes there as well. And then finally, what are the benefits? Why, other than being able to collaborate with BIM 360, what are some other things that you can do with it? We're going to talk about that as well. So let's start with what is BIM 360. BIM 360 is a cloud-based data platform that allows data for a BIM project to transition from design to planning to construction and even operations. So BIM 360 is a very multi-purpose type of platform. There are lots of things you can do with it, but it's for projects, and specifically it's for the type of projects that we all work on, buildings, civil projects, things like that. And it's an online platform where your data can live, and it's not just about the data being there, it's about it interacting with other data in the project, and also interacting with users that access that data and controlling how much access they have, and that sort of thing. There's just lots and lots that we can talk about. We could easily have a 12-month series just on BIM 360 and what it can do. The part of BIM 360 that we're going to focus on is technically called BIM 360 Document Management now, but I think everyone calls it BIM 360 Docs still. This is the part where when you publish an InfraWorks 360 model, this is where it goes. So we're going to focus on this and how it works and what you can do with it. Why did we make this change? Well, it's kind of a no-brainer when you think about it. BIM 360 is built for collaboration. It accepts just about any file type you can upload to it and control access to it. The more important thing is what kinds of file types can you view in it. In other words, if I want to view a PDF, I don't have to download the PDF and open it in Adobe. I can view it right in the BIM 360 environment. The same is true of DWG, RVT, and a whole bunch of file formats that I had to shrink down to really small font to show you on the right side of the screen there. I grabbed that out of the help. These are all the different file formats that you can view right in the BIM 360 environment. So that's really important. The way that you control user access, I think, is very intuitive. It's also very granular. You can go folder by folder and pick out specific individuals that you want to have access to that folder and how much access, what can they actually do in that folder when they get there. It also has the ability to do markups and comments and things called issues, where you're not just commenting on something, but you're assigning accountability to someone and tracking their completion of that issue, and tons more. Like I said, we could spend hours talking about what BIM 360 can do. So when you think about all this, it makes a lot of sense for InfraWorks collaboration to be managed in a platform that's built for that already, and we're already using for other project work, as opposed to having its own separate collaborative environment. And also, when you think about it, an InfraWorks model is part of an overall project. It's not something that ever really sits by itself. It's part of a project that could include civil 3D drawings and Revit models and all kinds of stuff. So why not put it alongside the other project data that it belongs with, instead of, again, segregating it off in its own little world. So when you think about those two things, I think it makes a lot of sense for us to do this. So the first thing we're going to look at, and what I did when I put this presentation together, I thought about, I'm an end user of InfraWorks. What am I going to run into first, and how am I going to handle it? So that's kind of how I organized this. And I think the first thing you're going to do when you install the upgrade to InfraWorks 2019 is you're going to want to open a model that you were working on the day before you installed the upgrade, right? So what happens when you do that? What are you going to be faced with? That's what we're going to cover first. So a couple of general things about opening existing models that you need to know. InfraWorks models are not backward compatible. So once you upgrade a model by opening it in the latest release, you're not going to be able to open it in an older release, and other team members aren't going to be able to open it in their older releases if they haven't upgraded. And that's no different than it's been before. So, you know, an upgrade, we realize an upgrade is not as simple as just one person. It doesn't just affect one person. It does have a ripple effect that others involved in the project have to be aware of the upgrade and go through it. Thankfully, the upgrade process, you know, on an individual basis is pretty simple. The way it installs is pretty quick and easy. It's just coordinating the information that, you know, everyone needs to know that that this model, this project's being upgraded. If you open a model, you upgrade that model. So if you open the model in the latest release, you are upgrading it. It's not like Civil 3D where you open a drawing and a message pops up that says this is open in an earlier release, and you can say, oh, okay, and you can close down that file without ever saving it, and it never gets upgraded. InfraWorks upgrades as it opens. Remember, there's no save command in InfraWorks. It's saving as you go. So as soon as you open that model, you've upgraded it. Some things happen when you upgrade a model that are pretty important to know. When you get into the model, you're going to see that all of your design roads, ones that are created according to styles, are going to be converted to component roads. And then the way that happens, the way that's going to unfold is design road style tracks are going to be replaced with matching components. So that's how that's going to happen. It does a pretty good job of doing that transition, but you know, you're going to want to take a look and see if anything has happened there that you may need to draw attention to. Now, one thing to know is if the model that you have been working on in InfraWorks has been cached, meaning it has a local copy, and this is going to be the case most of the time, you will have the opportunity to preserve the original and upgrade a copy. So if you're nervous about upgrading a model that you were working on yesterday, you want to have something to fall back to, you will have that opportunity. And you can upgrade the model, open it, look around, make sure everything is how you expect it to be. And then once you're comfortable with that, then you can get rid of that original copy or save it if you want, whatever you choose to do. So we're going to look at three different scenarios, three possible model conditions that you could run into when you're opening existing models, ones that you created with an older release. The first is a cloud model that has a cache. It's been cached or copied locally, which means you've opened it on the machine that you're sitting in front of. The next is a cloud model without a local cache. So maybe it's one that somebody created in the cloud and then invited you to share in it, but you've never opened it, or maybe you deleted the cache at some point. And then finally is a local model which has never been published to the cloud, let's say. It's just strictly local. And we'll look at those separately, and because things happen a little differently with each one. Not to overcomplicate, but I wanted to really break it down so that everyone understands what's going to happen in each situation. And I will demonstrate this in a moment. This isn't going to be all PowerPoint, but I wanted to just talk about what's going to happen first, and then I'll show you. If you have a cloud model with a local cache, meaning a local copy again, two different things. You have two different choices that you can make. When you click on that model tile to open it, a dialog is going to pop up. It's going to give you two choices, three if you count cancel. The first will be upgrade model, and the second will be upgrade a copy. If you choose upgrade model, the copy of the model that's been cached locally will open. And remember, I said in a previous slide, as you open it, it's going to upgrade it at the same time. Now, if you're really sharp and you understand how InfraWorks works with cloud models, you may be thinking, well, what if there were changes sitting in the cloud that I hadn't yet synced to the local version? Nothing to worry about. The first time you sync that model after upgrading it, you're going to go through a migration process, and it sounds like a big thing, but it's actually just one dialog box. During that migration process, you're going to choose a BIM 360 location for your model to now live, because you're migrating it over to the BIM 360 environment. And while it's migrating, actually before it migrates it, it will then ping the cloud version of the model, check for any changes, basically do a sync in the background between the local and the cloud version, get everything up to date the way it's supposed to be, and then it will migrate it over to the BIM 360 environment. Now, the one thing that you need to know at this point is you can't, in order to publish a model or sync a model to BIM 360, you have to give it a place for it to live. Just like before, you had to choose a group to publish your model, you now have to choose a project and a folder within that project to publish your model in BIM 360. So before you do this first sync, you're going to have gone into BIM 360 and set up a project, or you will have to have identified a project that already exists maybe, and a location for you to put that model. And I'm going to cover how to do that in a little bit, so you'll know how to do that before the end of the webcast. All right, next option is upgrade a copy. When you pick this option, the locally cached model is copied to any location you specify on your hard drive or on the network. Keep in mind that any outstanding changes from the cloud version are not synced. Okay, and then if you want, at some point, you can publish this copy to the BIM 360 environment. The publish command is very similar to the way it was before. The only difference is, instead of selecting a group, you're going to select a BIM 360 project and a folder within that project to publish to. The thing to realize about this is if you do have any outstanding changes on the cloud version and you move forward with that copy, you're not going to get those. What you may want to do instead is go ahead and upgrade that copy. See how it looks. If everything it looks like it came across well. We're not expecting any problems, but we understand that users can be nervous about upgrading models, especially if you've spent a lot of time working on them. You look at the copy, everything looks good, then you may want to go back and go ahead and upgrade the original and sync it into BIM 360 like the first example. Of course, you're free to do whatever you want, but that's the recommended workflow there. So what about a cloud model without a local cache, strictly local? Well, the way the process works is it opens and upgrades a local version. So what it's going to do, it's going to download the model version and then open and upgrade that at the same time. So you don't get the options that you had before. You don't get upgrade model and upgrade a copy. You only get one option in this case. In fact, the dialog doesn't even pop up. It just goes ahead and opens the model, and it's going to upgrade it right where it sits. So the only difference there, you don't get the choice. And when you do that first sync, just like before, that's when you'll have to choose your BIM 360 project and folder for it to be synced to. By the way, the reason I have these images at the top, these are clues to tell you what kind of model you have. So rolling back a slide to cloud model with cache, you'll see this little broom icon next to it. And the broom icon, what it's actually used for is it allows you to erase the local cache if at some point you'd ever want to. If you don't see this broom icon, there's no local cache. Also, if you hover over, if you're actually in InfraWorks and you hover over the cloud icon, if it says cloud model and that's it, that means it only exists in the cloud. If it lists out a path, then that's showing you where the cache is located. For the cloud model without a local cache, you can see there's no broom icon there. So those are just clues to tell you what's going on. Okay, and then finally, what if you have a local model? Again, some clues here. You see the home icon, you see the duplicate icon. Things are different here. Again, there are clues that tell you what you can do. There's even a delete icon. So if a model's strictly local, you can delete it. You get the same two choices here that you had with a cloud model that had a cache. You can either upgrade the model or upgrade a copy. Same result. Local model opens and is upgraded. If you say upgrade a copy, it leaves the local model. It makes a copy of the local model, upgrades that copy, leaving the original intact. If at some point you want that to become a cloud model, we're assuming you don't in this case because it was a local model all along up until this point, but you at any time can take a local model and publish it to BIM 360 if you have, if you have a BIM 360 account. All right, so I'm going to give you a little demo of this. Let me switch to InfraWorks, and I'm just going to pick a model off my screen that follows under one of these conditions. So here we see this Mount Rushmore model. I know it's local and cloud because it has the broom icon and it has the cloud icon. I also know it's an older version because it has the exclamation point in the top right corner. So this is a model that was created with an older version of InfraWorks and then was opened on my machine here. So I'm just going to click the model. Because there's a local version, it's going to give me the choice. I can either upgrade the model or upgrade a copy. I'm going to go ahead and click upgrade a model. That's just going to go ahead and open the model and upgrade it as it works. Now keep in mind, it's not doing any syncing right now. It's not checking with the cloud version to see if there are any changes. We'll give that just a second to open. This might be a good place to see if there are any questions that any of the panel needs to air out. Anything going on out there that we need to take a look at? All right. I see there are some questions, but you guys must be knocking them down.
Yeah, we are. I think everybody's feverishly answering questions.
All right, good job.
Carry on.
Well, the model's open, as you can see. And now that I've opened it the first time, it doesn't yet live in BIM 360, technically. That's going to happen when I do my first sync. All right, so I'll click the sync icon. It's going to check the model, kind of see what's going on. And then this is the migrate to BIM 360 dialog that's going to pop up. This will only pop up once for this model. Once I migrate it, then I'm done. I don't need to do anything. Now I don't have a Mount Rushmore project in here, so that's something I'm going to have to take care of. And I could actually jump out, go and do that in BIM 360, and then come back here and then just repeat the command, and it should pop up. In fact, I think we'll try doing that. So that's the process you go through with a model. That's going to be your most common, I think, your most common scenario, because most people are making their models with Model Builder, which means they start off in the cloud, and then first time you open it, it caches the model. You work on it there, and even if you don't ever share that model with anyone, you still have it connected to the cloud and to the local version as well. So that's what's going to happen. Switch back to the PowerPoint, and let's talk about setting up BIM 360. So two major steps that you need to execute for this to work. Step one is to get an account. Step two is to create a project. All right, so if your company, let's talk about getting an account. How do you go about doing that? If your company already uses BIM 360, you have an account. So what I encourage you to do before anything is to pick up the phone or walk over to your contract administrator's office, the person that handles your licensing and software purchasing through Autodesk for your company, your person in-house, and find out if your company has a BIM 360 account. You want to use that if you do. What you don't want to do is have multiple BIM 360 accounts floating around within your company. That's going to cause a lot of confusion, and you're going to have projects that could potentially be stored in multiple accounts. And the way that could happen is, you decide to go off on your own and start up a trial for your team or something like that. That's going to eventually, you're going to hit a point where you need to merge things back together. And rather than do that, just find out if your company has an account and jump in on that. Have your contract admin add you, and hopefully they can give you the ability to create projects, and you can do that yourself and be off and running. If not, you may also have to ask them to create a project for you if that's how your company works. Now, if your company does not have BIM 360, you can sign up for what we're calling a 12-month preview if your company has the AEC collection. Now, before I get too far into this, I do want to answer probably one of the first questions on everyone's mind is, can I still use InfraWorks if I don't have BIM 360? And the answer is yes. You don't have to sign up for BIM 360. It's not like InfraWorks suddenly becomes useless if you don't have BIM 360. You can still create models. In fact, you can even still use Model Builder. I'm going to tell you that, tell you how that works, show you how that works in a few minutes. You can still, share your models through your network drive. You can share the InfraWorks files, but it's that very specific online collaboration workflow that InfraWorks had in older releases that we've switched over to BIM 360. That's the part that you need BIM 360 for. Okay, so again, if your company does not have a BIM 360 account, you can sign up for this 12-month preview if your company has the AEC collection. In fact, if your company has the AEC collection, your contract admin already got an email invitation to this, I think several weeks ago, or early April. So they may have already signed up for this, or they may have the email in their inbox and are wanting to do something with it. So again, go talk to your contract administrator. Say, hey, do we have the AEC collection? If you're not sure, if you do, then we should have the ability to sign up for this 12-month preview. Now, as the world can go sometimes, that person may have gotten that email, never realized they got it, deleted it, lost track of it, whatever. If that's the case, then reach out to your partner, your reseller, and ask them to help you through the process of getting signed up for the 12-month preview. Now, if you don't have the AEC collection, you still have a path. You can sign up for a 30-day trial, and anyone can do this. But again, don't do this unless you've checked with your company to make sure they don't already have an account. But you can sign up, just go to bim360.autodesk.com. You can sign up for a trial online very easily, and you can be up and running to a point where you can evaluate the new collaboration system in InfraWorks to determine whether you want to go ahead and purchase BIM 360. Of course, if you already know, collaboration is what you want to do. It's just a no-brainer. You love the additional benefits of BIM 360. The simplest and easiest thing to do is just go ahead and call your Autodesk partner and subscribe to it. Now, what happens if you sign up for the trial or the preview? What happens when that expires? What happens at the end of that period? You'll have an additional 30 days to access your data online. So if you plan to, break ties with BIM 360, you can download all your stuff, or that also gives you 30 days to say, yeah, I like how this works. I've had enough time to evaluate it, and we're going to go ahead and subscribe to it. So then you can contact your partner or your Autodesk partner and get subscribed to BIM 360, and then you'll maintain access to all your online data. Your trial account will just become a paid account, and your data will stay there, and you can just keep on rolling forward. So again, it's important to, if you're going to do a trial or if you're going to do the 12-month preview, kind of assume that you're going to love it and stick with it, so that when you make that migration, you're not migrating it to Jim's BIM 360 account. It's your company account that then you can add more projects to, and it's built for scalability. So don't just quickly sign up for that trial and say, I just want to see if this works. Have the long term in mind when you're doing this. Once you have an account, step 2 is to create a project. And I know you're seeing a video start here. I'm not going to show you a video. I'm actually going to do this for you. But let's jump into BIM 360 and I'll show you how to create a project. Bear with me one second. I thought I had a window already open for this, but I didn't. So I'm just in Chrome, just your standard everyday browser. I'm going to go to bim360.autodesk.com. And now this is assuming I have an account. Either I've signed up for a trial, or I've subscribed to BIM 360, or my contract admin has called me and said, you're all set. Go ahead and log in to BIM 360, and you'll be able to do everything you need to do. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to log in as myself. And what most people are probably going to do, I'm going to do what I think most people will do, is jump to BIM 360 docs, because that's the one that I think everyone's most familiar with. It really doesn't matter where you go first. Once you're in, you can do what I'm about to do, and it will take you where you need to go. And what I'm talking about there is I'm going to go up here and click this matrix icon in the top left corner. And I'm going to switch to, well, that's interesting. I have to switch accounts here. Bear with me 1 second. And this is, for those of you who are familiar with BIM 360, it's important to know that InfraWorks does support multiple accounts. So if you're invited to projects in a lot of different places, you can still publish models to those different places. I need to switch accounts to one that I actually have the privileges to make projects, and that's this one. So again, once I'm in here, I'm going to click the matrix icon, and this is where I want to go, account admin. And what I want to do is create a new project. So I'll click up here on projects, and then I'll click add, give my project a name. We want to be able to publish that Mount Everest model. So I'm just going to call my project Mount Everest. Let's say we're going to put a hotel at the top of Mount Everest. I know I'm being silly here. Project value is $1 million. We can get into all kinds of stuff here. I'm going to go with the bare minimum just to get us going. I'm going to say my project's starting today and it's ending 2 years from now. And I'm just going to fill out the kind of the bare minimum information here. Okay, so project name, project type, start date, end date, and then the language, which automatically defaulted to English. Notice you can add a project image, which I recommend. Also want to add a project address. That's always nice because when you go to project home, it'll show you kind of the weather at the project site. It'll give you a location on a map where the project site's located. Every piece of information here is useful. So even though I'm kind of rushing through and only hitting the main stuff, I encourage you to fill this out completely. Save and continue. Now here's an important step. For this to work with InfraWorks, I need to activate document management. It's at the very top of the list here. So I'll click activate. I need to assign a project administrator, which is going to be me. So I'll type in my information, also my company, and then I can click save and I'm ready to go. Now, as I said, there's a lot of stuff you can do with BIM 360, and you can see some things I'm not talking about, like copying project settings and adding additional admins. As you dig deeper into the BIM 360 world, you can certainly learn more about how all those things work. My goal for today is to give you what you need to know to get up and running the first time you use InfraWorks and want to collaborate with this BIM 360 system. So I'll click Finish. And now I have my Mount Everest project down here. I clicked on it. Right now I'm the only member in the project. We'll talk about adding project members and collaborating a little bit later. But now I'll switch to BIM 360 document management. And I've got an empty BIM 360 docs project. Right now it only has 2 folders that are created by default, plans and project files. I'm planning to use this Mount Everest project for, and I noticed now I didn't spell it right. I'm planning to use this as a project. So this isn't going to be just about my InfraWorks model. There are going to be Civil 3D drawings in here. There are going to be Revit files, PDFs for plan sets, all kinds of stuff, Office documents, all kinds of things. So I want to be able to separate that out. So, I'm going to add some subfolders in here. I'm going to add one for Civil 3D designs. I'm going to add one for Revit models, and I'm going to add one for InfraWorks models. And as the project progresses, I'll probably have a lot more folders and subfolders than this, I'm sure. When I get back to InfraWorks, the place I'm going to look for is, when it comes time to publish my model, is I'm going to look for my project, which is Mount Everest in this case, and then what folder in that project do I want to publish to? InfraWorks models. So again, Mount Everest InfraWorks models is where I'll be looking to publish that model. So let's go ahead and do that. I'll go back to InfraWorks. And remember, I was going to do that sync, that first sync where I migrate the model over, and I couldn't because I didn't have a project to put it in. So now we should be able to do that. So I'll scroll down here. There's Mount Everest. Remember, we want to look for an InfraWorks models folder under project files. Scroll down a little bit more, and there it is right there. So I'm actually able to pinpoint a specific folder in the project structure where I want the model to be published. I click Migrate to BIM 360, and now it's going to go through the process. It's going to go and check the cloud version, get everything in sync, and then move it all over to the BIM 360 environment. And it's going to do all that for me. I don't have to interact with any of that. All right. Switch back to our PowerPoint. And let's talk about using Model Builder now, okay? So again, one of the first things you're going to want to do after you've opened a model that you were working on yesterday, today you need to create a new model for a project that just popped up. And as I said earlier, most projects start with Model Builder. So what's the deal with Model Builder? How's that going to work? Well, the really good news is if you're not set up with BIM 360, either you don't have an account or you just haven't worked with your contract admin to get added yet, no problem. You can still use Model Builder without a BIM 360 account. What'll happen is it'll go through the process just like it always does. The model will start initially in the cloud in kind of a special account that we've created for this purpose. And then after you've opened it the first time, it'll just become a local model. No problem. One thing you'll need to know is if you want to control where that model's stored, you have two ways of doing it. One is to go into the settings and change where the local cache is prior to using Model Builder. Okay, that's one way, so before the fact. Or after you've created the model, you can then duplicate it. And during the process of duplicating the model, you can save it to wherever you like. So for example, if you have your cache set to go to your local machine, but the project that you're working in is stored on the server, no problem, just create the model and then duplicate it over right after you create it, duplicate it over to the server. It'll take you a minute to do that. Now, if you have a BIM 360 account, it's really simple. The workflow works just like it did before with Model Builder, but instead of choosing a group to publish your model into, you're going to choose a BIM 360 project and then a subfolder within that project. Now, of course, to do that, the project has to exist. Actually, I have it here that it's before you launch Model Builder. That's not entirely true. There is a refresh button on the Model Builder window. So you can open Model Builder and say, oh yeah, that's right, I need to go create a project, jump into your browser, create a project, come back to Model Builder and hit the refresh button, and then it will, that project will pop up for you and you can choose it. All right. So hopefully InfraWorks is done doing its thing. Actually, the migration is in progress. So I'm going to take a quick look at some of the questions that are popping up. Or actually, I'll ask my panel, is there anything that's popped up in the questions panel that, not everyone looks at the questions and answers there. Is there anything we should probably bring up out loud that would be good?
This is Sarah. So there's a good one here about migrating current users and permissions from an existing InfraWorks cloud model to BIM 360.
Okay. So you want me to take that, Sarah?
If you want to. I'm trying not to interrupt too much.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. You may be more informed on it than I am, but I'll take a stab at it. And if I get anything wrong or if you want to add anything, please do. Okay. And I wanted to point something out. Did you notice that? Yellow rectangle in the model? That wasn't there before, and that was a little test I did for myself. When I migrated the model, that was a proof to me that it went up and checked the cloud version because the cloud version had the yellow rectangle and my local version didn't. So yes, it does actually sync the model as you're migrating it. Anyway, so unfortunately, the old permissions and setup in the old collaboration environment in InfraWorks is not going to carry over. So whatever your team was that you had constructed and the people as well as their permissions, that's all entirely different in BIM 360. So you're going to have to reestablish that in BIM 360. Like right now, my Mount Everest project, I just created it. I haven't added anybody. If you're creating the BIM 360 project for the first time, you're going to be in the same spot, and there's no file that you can export from BIM 360 or anything that can migrate it over. Luckily, as you're going to see, it's really easy to add users and set permissions in BIM 360. So I hope you'll agree it's not going to be super hard to take care of that. So, Sarah, anything to add?
I couldn't have said it better.
All right. Okay. Well, this is done. So now we've got our Mount Rushmore model established, and it's in the BIM 360 environment. If I make a change to it, I'm just going to do some more silly stuff and maybe add a road somewhere. I'm just dropping something in here just to show the sync process. So I added something, I made a change. I'm going to click sync, and this is going to look a lot like it did before. In fact, maybe exactly as it did before. It's going to check with the cloud version of the model. It's going to see what's changed. You can see that I have a change in master, a change in common resources. What if I have multiple proposals? Let's make one just for fun. Design one. So you can see how that works in BIM 360. So I'll make my design one proposal, and I'll change the style of this to something that looks green. And I'll sync that change up to BIM 360. All right, so let's watch what happens here with a sync. Design one is not in the cloud. I can choose whether or not to sync it to BIM 360 just by checking or unchecking the box. I'm going to go ahead and sync it and click sync, and it's going to go through that process. And again, most of this should look very similar to what you're used to. The only difference is now you're choosing a BIM 360 project and a folder, which is kind of nice. I think that that additional control of being able to break your project down into folders and choose exactly where the InfraWorks model is going to go is pretty nice. While this is working, let's jump back over to our project and let's see if anything's happening in InfraWorks models yet. Okay, you can see that my model's being published, but it's not done processing yet. The version says V with some dashes on it. I'm going to change the view here to thumbnails, and you can see this gold bar that's moving across here. It's kind of telling me that there's something processing in the background. Once that gold bar is gone and the version actually lists a valid version number, I'll be ready to open that model. But while we're waiting for that, let's go ahead and talk about what you can do with BIM 360. And one of the first things, again, I'm trying to walk through this the way that you're going to walk through it, and the things that pop up that you're going to need to address. Okay, I've published my model. Now I want to share it with someone else. How do I do that? So let's look at that. Now there are multiple ways to do this. And again, as you dig further into BIM 360, you're going to want to get into roles and managing users at different levels. I'm going to show you a very straightforward way that'll get you going right off the bat. So I've got my project files folder, and I've got my InfraWorks models folder, and I can set individual permissions for either folder. So if I want somebody to have access to everything under project files, like I said, it's intuitive. I would go in here and go to permissions and add them. But maybe for this particular project, I'm going to have folders in here that have to do with bidding for submittals to the county, whatever. I have a lot of stuff in here that maybe I don't necessarily want my InfraWorks designer cohort to have to sift through or look at or deal with. So I'm going to share specifically the InfraWorks models folder with the people that I want to collaborate on InfraWorks. So I'll click the ellipsis here on the right, simply click permissions, and then I can literally type in the email address of anyone I want. So I'm going to type in, I have a test user here that I use for everything. And then you can set the permission level for that person. So we can have upload only. So imagine you've got a contractor submitting bids. You just want them to be able to upload, and that's it. They won't be able to see anything. Versus somebody collaborating with you on the project that can view the model. In this case, because it's an InfraWorks models folder, they can view it. They can't make any changes. We've got view and upload, which gives them the ability to view what's there and upload their own stuff, but they can't edit anything. View, upload, and edit, just like you'd think. They can now go in and anything in this folder, they can make changes to. So in an InfraWorks environment, that means they can make changes and sync their changes. And then finally, view, upload, edit, and control, which means within this folder, they can do things like invite more people. So for this particular user, I'm going to say this is an InfraWorks collaborator. I want them to be able to make changes and sync those changes up to the model that we're sharing. So I'm going to say view, upload, and edit. I'll click add, and it's that simple, right? I now have my test user 25 added to the project. That person will get an email immediately that says, welcome to Mount Everest, and they'll have the ability to, the tile will pop up on their InfraWorks home screen. They can go right in and open that model, or they can come into the BIM 360 environment here. And in fact, I think there might even be a link right to the model. Not sure what happened right there, but let's go here, where they can click on the model and view it in the BIM 360 environment. So this is the new web view, right? The web and mobile views that we had before, you can either use this, or you can actually, if you don't have a BIM 360 account, there's even a more direct way called a shared view. Doesn't require BIM 360 at all. You can just carve out a piece of your model and basically publish it to the web, and anyone that you give the link to can see it. So remember, we posted multiple proposals, right? We published multiple proposals. We had the master one, which I'm in now, I believe, and then we had design one. Remember design one, I changed this rectangle to green. Well, how do you get to your proposals? Piece of cake. Over here on the left is sheets and views. As soon as you expand that out, you see all of the proposals that you've published. So I can click design one, and there's the one with the green coverage on it. So publish as many proposals as you want. You can browse them all in the BIM 360 environment. All right, so hopefully that clears up how easy it is to add users. What are some other things you can do with BIM 360? Well, the short answer is there's a ton, but let's just talk about some of it. I'm going to open a different project, close this down, and it's one that I've been kind of playing around with for the last couple of weeks and adding different things to. So it's got some different stuff in it. We already saw what you can do with just navigating the model. There's just the fact that you can, once you publish that model to BIM 360, you can invite anyone to view it in that context. So I can go to InfraWorks models or wherever I stored my InfraWorks model, and I can open this 3D model view. Now this opens in our standard model viewer, web browser-based model viewer that we use for all kinds of things like A360 stuff and stereo. Well, I don't know about stereo panos, but 3D models. We kind of use the same background technology for all the model viewing, so you'll see a lot of consistency. In fact, if you've ever opened any of that stuff before, you probably recognize some of the icons at the bottom and what they do. But just from a navigation standpoint, I could jump to the proposal that I want to open. And these, like I said, are all proposals here. And I can navigate around on this model. One of the first things you may want to do is, if you're really used to using Civil 3D and InfraWorks, is you might want to jump into settings. I hit the little gear icon over here, and I changed under navigation and selection. reverse mouse zoom direction. Actually, I thought I had reversed it. Yeah, but when I roll forward, I want to zoom in. When I roll backward, I want to zoom out. So I think when you very first launch BIM 360, it's the other way around. But I'm just orbiting around this model, just like you would in InfraWorks, using the center wheel to pan, and using the left mouse button to orbit. You can also use the right button to pan. There's even a first-person view, which is kind of fun. I'm going to launch that. Got a little information about how to use it, and then I'll double-click right down here on the sidewalk, and it's going to teleport me there. I'll look up at the building, and now I can use my arrow keys to walk around. I can even walk through the glass here. Let me turn around here and see if I actually broke the glass. I did not. It's still intact. But I can walk around even inside a building. So nothing special here. This building just happened to be present in the InfraWorks model when I published it. So it's not like I had to publish the Revit model separately and put them together here in BIM 360. That all happened just because it was in the InfraWorks model. Let's go back to, let's exit out of first person view here, and I'll go back to home. And remember, this is all about collaboration, right? So let's say I invite someone to look at this model and they don't like something. Well, they can do a markup, and so I'll go to my markup tools here, and I'll say, maybe I don't like that there's no cars in here, and I'll circle that and say, put a little text message here, need cars here, and then when somebody comes to this model, they'll see, if I close this, you can see that there's an indicator here that this has markups. All right, there's some markups going on in here. So I can open the model. I can click the markups icon. There's the one that I just added. I'll click it. Takes me right to that proposal, and it shows me the markup and the text that goes with it. Okay, so that's kind of an informal way to make comments and just to share information with people. And but what if I want a more formalized way to do that? And that's what issues are all about. I'll click an issue that I posted for my friend John, who's on the call in the background. I could see he still hasn't done this yet. I'm gonna have to give him a hard time. But I sent this to John and said, please model the existing road and the intersection with the parking lot. Of course, I don't really expect John to do that. We were just testing out the issue's functionality. But when I do this, I can assign it to a person. I can give them a due date, give them a location, even tell them what version that takes place in. And then when John addresses this, he can go back into this issue and say that it's answered. I can look at his answer, see how he addressed it, and then if I'm happy with it, then I can close it. So this is a way that we can kind of formally communicate issues or things that need to be changed or comments, and not only say that they exist, but also assign accountability and a timeline to them. This could work within your own project team. It could work in a larger, broader environment where you've got a designer, maybe you're a municipality working with a designer and you're reviewing the model, telling the designer to change things, or maybe you're interacting with the contractor, telling them certain things that need to happen with construction, or vice versa. The contractor's coming back and saying, we can't build this the way it's shown here, and you're addressing issues that way. So whatever you can imagine collaboratively, we can do here with issues as far as the scenario of who's talking to who. Another cool tool, just because it's fun to play with BIM 360, is the section tool. So I'm going to cut a section plane through here, pull it back toward me a little bit, and I can slice through the building. Let's zoom in a little closer. So I can see what's going on inside the building using the section tool, and of course the terrain as well. So that's sectioning through the pond. If we want to take a look at kind of what's going on with the terrain as well, we can do that. So that can come in handy. We can take measurements. I'm curious about the height of this building. I can pick 2 points. I see that it's measuring in meters. I'm more of a feet kind of guy, so I'm going to change this to decimal feet. The measurement changes to feet right in front of me. I want to know how long the sidewalk is. I want to know, is this a 90-degree angle? Pretty close. So, handy little tools like taking measurements. Model browser is pretty cool. Let me open that up. I'll click done here for my measurements. It will recognize that there are individual named objects from InfraWorks in here. So things like buildings, if you named a building. Now there's only one building in here, so that's not super impressive, but let's say a road. I see County Road 523. Where's that at? I want to see how that interacts with the project. I can click on it and it'll show me where it is in the model and zoom to it. Here's York Drive, which is just a little loop road there. McNabb Road, which is just a little short piece here. And that's true of all kinds of things in the InfraWorks model. And that, again, we're just talking about InfraWorks today. Imagine being able to do this with some other projects as well, like with Revit or something like that. We can view the properties of individual components, and I actually do want to show you that within Revit. So I'm going to close this down. And this just blows my mind. So I went into the plans section. I hope I finished doing this. I think I did. So I went into the plans section, and what I did is, in this section, I brought in some PDFs. So you can see these PDF files. It was actually a single PDF, and I went through a process, and it automatically separated it out into its individual sheets, looked at the title block, and gave them sheet numbers. If you're not familiar with BIM 360, it's pretty slick stuff that it does with managing plans. But even cooler is, in the architectural folder, I dumped a Revit file in here, and it did the same thing. It went through the Revit file, found all the sheets, separated them out individually, but yet when I click on a Revit file, it still has, even though it looks like a 2D plan, like a PDF, it still has information built into it. So I'm just going to pick something random here and click on it, like this chair. And then I'll open properties, and you can see it has information stored about the chair that came out of Revit. So this is what appears to be a 2D drawing that I could print from here, is actually, a fully functional, information-packed Revit model. So just to show some of the capabilities of what you can do here in the BIM 360 environment. All right. I'm getting close to the top of the hour here, which is good because I'm about done with information I want to present. So other things to know, and this is information that was, some of this was information that was released a while ago, but I just want to reiterate it. Things to know: cloud collaboration still works for older releases of InfraWorks. So if you're not ready to upgrade yet, you have 2018.2. You can still create models, you can still use groups and invite collaborators. As we said, Model Builder still works. Actually, we didn't discuss this. We saw that Model Builder works with the new release, even though you may not have BIM 360. It still works as well in the older releases. There are some changes elsewhere within InfraWorks that are a little different, that you do need the latest release, and those are the things you see listed in the middle of your screen: watershed analysis, traffic simulation, and such. For these to work, you have to go to the new release of InfraWorks. There's more information about this at the link that you see in the middle of your screen. I know that's a very long link. I apologize for that. You can also go to the knowledge base, knowledge.autodesk.com, and search for changes to InfraWorks services or InfraWorks services, something like that. You'll find that information. Scenarios and web and mobile views are no longer available, as well as the web administrator portal. BIM 360 and shared views are now the way to publish to web and mobile. And also the InfraWorks iPad app is no longer available. Again, there's a BIM 360 app. If you publish a model into BIM 360, you can view it with that. If you publish one using shared views, you can just use your browser on your mobile device to view that model. So those are some other changes that are going on. I see we're at the top of the hour. Sarah and the gang, are there any last questions that you want to maybe air out and address before we wrap up?
Do we have some resources on the civil community that go over this presentation?
We absolutely do. If you go to the Civil Community Center, civil-community civil-community.autodesk.com, you'll see kind of a nice polished recording of what I just went through in the news section. And then the recording of this webcast, I'm recording it right now, and I will post it also to the community center in a few hours. There's also, I'm trying to think, I was thinking there was one other, oh, there are also resources on AKN that have to do with this. And we're also going to be releasing in the coming days an FAQ document that will, we've been gathering up lots of questions, and I'm sure we'll add a few from today's webcast to it, and we want to put that out there for people to read as well. So you could go right now, if what you just saw you think is really important for someone else to see or for you to review, you could go to the Civil Community Center right now and, like I said, view a video of this content. And then if you wait a few hours, you'll be able to see the recording of this actual presentation again on the community center. Did I miss anything, Sarah?
Nope, I put the link directly to the video in the chat window as
Awesome.
well.
All right. Well, with that, I just want to remind everyone about our next webcast coming up in 2 weeks. Autodesk and Esri equals BIM plus GIS. We'll hear from Wes. It's going to be really exciting to learn all the great things we can do as a result of the partnership with Esri and Autodesk. So definitely don't miss that. And I want to thank you all for giving us an hour out of your day. I hope you found this informational. I hope it helps you navigate through our new collaboration system in InfraWorks, and I hope you love it. It's a great system, and I think you're really going to like what you can do with BIM 360. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time.